Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Are the Opera of Power with Gail and
Jane. Hi, Gail. Hi,
hi,
everyone.
Jade. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Comfortable here in my chair. I'm great, thank you. Today we were having a little bit of a discussion trying to figure out what we wanted to talk about. And there's been so much going on in the news lately with, well, we're in Canada, so we can talk specifically about Canada, but there's a lot of um, things being forced on people and there's a lot of division in um, people that are okay with it and people that are not okay with things being forced on them. And as a result of that, there's a lot of people that are standing up and saying no and doing it from a out there group perspective.
Yeah,
Well, we thought it'd be kind of cool just to look at that because I think we've all through our pattern that we all have the same pattern to get to the same end. It seems to me that that whole idea of activism to various extents seems to be part of the pattern. Like I think I've gone through it to some extent. Jane, you've gone through it, if not going out there in our minds and what we can do out there to make change.
yes, yes.
Um, before we realized where the real change had to happen. So we thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about that and try and relate it. How, what perspective we really would benefit from having
That's right.
to making the changes out there and looking at it within. So I don't know about you, but I have people that come up to me and have a really hard time with what's going on out there. And I mean, I get it. A couple of years back, I was right there and I challenged, I've talked about it before, the whole law thing. I challenged a bank. I saw what was going on with banks and I challenged it in a court of law. And that was kind of my fight. My activism was doing something I thought it was a for sure thing that turns out it wasn't a for sure thing. That
And
nothing
even
out there is what I thought it was.
right. And even like when we were talking, I said yesterday I was watching a lot of news and I was starting to get kind of like, they're doing that to me. And oh, it's so sad. And there's so many things going on that are out of my control. And they're out there trying to get in here and do things to me. And then I was like, looking around, I was driving, I was like, well, it's a pretty nice day out today. And, everything's pretty cool right here, right now. So, like I was getting emotionally charged from it too, just thinking about it. So that's kind of where we started in the conversation and how it's easy to get pulled out of pulled out to there. It's over there, and I need to do something over there. But and then actually, I think my sadness was about, well, what the hell am I going to do about out there? Like that just seems like so big and so ominous and so much out of my control. So then, of course, I know enough to switch, um, which comes from saying to myself, well, what's going on here and now? Like what's happening here and now? It's actually a really good day. So am I going to
Right.
waste my day being emotionally upset about something that I need to uh, frame inside myself and just say, okay, well, what can I do about what's going on in my little microcosm of reality here? And of course, that always comes back to all the stuff we talk about. Like it really does. Like no
Right.
matter how ominous it seems, and you know,
Well, you're here and now in that
right,
moment when you were getting upset about whatever you were reading. Your here and now was like, oh, this is coming up in my consciousness. They're showing me this in my consciousness. And that's no, I maybe used to believe in that and think that that was true, but no, I forgive them because I know that I'm free to make all my choices. I'm free to create my reality, whatever it is you prefer.
Right.
And I think it's really important if you're going to watch that kind of stuff. And if it triggers you, then you obviously have a belief that it has some kind of a power over you. So it
Right.
have a confirmation that yes, that is in your consciousness if you didn't
Yes.
just from hearing it. And so that forgiveness is really important
Well,
to clear
yeah.
it out.
And on
And
a
that doesn't mean one thing, just sorry, I just want to make clear. Just because you forgive and clear it for yourself doesn't mean that it's not going to be out there still on the sort of the grander scale. But what it means is it's not going to have the effect on you that
right.
you have on those that accept it as true.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Okay, so here I am going through my day. I've got to interact with people. So if I'm in a state where a fear state where everything out there is trying to get me, and I run into a person that, you know, I'm going to interact with, like, I'm not going to be a very nice person either. They're going to be all up in this idea
And the
that,
person is going to reflect back to you where you
right,
did you see that the other day?
right,
Did you get your vaccine? What do you mean you didn't get your vaccine?
yeah,
Well, they'll be reflecting
So,
back to you what you're fearful and angry and frustrated about.
right. And if I'm in a
It's your
state of,
that you're holding.
right, and then if I'm in a state of love and everything's great, all is well, I can share that and that will be reflected to me. So it's kind of like deciding on, you know, do I want to go through my day in fear or in love, I guess. It really
Right.
comes down to.
And now they may, with you being in a state of love, they may still bring up that old stuff.
Yes.
But that's simply for just, oh, okay, I need to clear that. That's something that didn't get cleared. I forgave already. Everyone's free. Everybody's living their best life, whatever.
Yes.
And at that point, it's like, let people be who they are.
Yes.
You deal with your stuff that they're referring
Yeah.
back to you, then everything else is their choice. If they want to hold on to something that you just think is ridiculous, let them hold on to it. You don't have to hold on to it.
Yes. Yes.
If you clear it, everybody is whatever you prefer. And then they can do whatever they have their experience to have, and they can be however they want to be, but you clear it for yourself.
And that's
good. That's not going to come up from them again in your presence once you get to that place of it being natural. Like
right.
I never have people asking me if I had the vaccine.
Right.
And I mean, I don't tell anyways, because who cares? Like what?
Yeah.
I don't tell people if I have some other disease or I have, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm not worried about the vaccine. Whether I have it or not is totally my business and my choice. And so I never have anybody saying, do you have the vaccine? Do you have the vaccine? Do you have that? And I actually did though at the dog park. We got talking about it. And at that time he said he was vaccinated. And I said at that time I wasn't, right? He literally stepped back from me and I just burst out laughing. Okay, it's cool, dude. Like I wasn't offended.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny, right? Because all of a sudden I'm like a leper too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, dude, no problem.
Well, also it's like emptying, okay, like being a sovereign, like I used to think that you had to control out there. So if someone said something to me, you had to convince them. Like it's a very, very, very different place.
And that is, and one of the things that I notice is that's coming from a place of lack.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change something out there, then you're lacking something.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that a lot of, watching people that are doing their activism and gathering and everything else that they're doing against, what the government's wanting to do, they're coming from a place of lack.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're finding is they have these great ideas. We'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. It'll work really well. It'll engage people. We'll all be there. And then, something happens that somebody rips off other people. They end up with this internal battle within the group, or, the police step in and they do something or whatever, and everything falls to a shambles. And that's because they're looking from lack and coming with their ideas are coming from a state of lack.
Yeah.
So flip that. When I'm looking at things, I always kind of just say to myself, okay, what can I control in this?
Mm-hmm.
There's like nothing. I know
Right.
over what the prime minister does, what the government does. I mean, there's just voting is not having any kind of control. So that's not an answer. That's not a way to go. I have no control. I don't even have control over you.
Right.
Jane, you better say this right now. I can't force you to say that. I have no control over what you're going to say or what you're going to do.
And that's a
So
more powerful place.
What happens is we react from that place thinking, oh yes, I do have something I can do. I'm going to do this to you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And it all falls to pieces because you're not coming from a true state of empowerment. You're coming from a place of lack, which is it's a continuous, I can't think of the word now, but you just continuously are creating lack. And when you are doing these great things and then they end up falling apart, you get even more frustrated. You get even more angry. You feel even more a lack of control.
Right.
So,
and also, if you're trying to control and you're not, what ends up happening is that you get out of control trying to control others. It's the opposite of what you think. And that's always been what I've learned lately and struggled with when I try to go, oh, I have to change that person's mind or influence or control. I end up getting a lack of control, whereas I never realized the control was actually to control myself.
that is the only control. That is the
it sounds ridiculous though when you say it, because it's not the way I was brought up to think. I was brought up to think that everything was out there trying to get in here. And when you're in here and you're only in here, and you're staying in that place of, no, I'm not going to buy into that. Or, yeah, you can have and you allow people to have, like you said, if they say something that, would normally be offensive, you say, oh, well, you think that, oh, well, it's not, you don't have to keep undoing and reframing and talking and going and doing all this stuff. And it's so much easier.
Right. Well, I would still forgive, or at least remind myself that I've forgiven that already.
Right.
It's up, because that's why it's coming up. It's in your consciousness.
And it's internal though. So
right. Yeah, you're not saying, oh, Jane, I forgive you. No, you're not.
Right.
It's just within, it's I forgive you. I've already forgiven that. Everybody's free. Everybody's happy. Everybody's living their best life. Everybody's loving whatever it is that you want. So the question then becomes, and this one is very challenging when you start along this pathway, because the answer is to look within.
Mm-hmm.
So coming from an activist perspective, I'm always gathering or organizing, saving. I'm doing this for you, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for the children. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for everybody. Which is wonderful, but that's not the place that's going to make the difference. The place that makes the difference is in here. It's okay, I need to save my family. Okay, well, I forgive, my family are perfect. My family are powerful. My family are free. My family are happy. Don't see them as the victims.
Yeah.
how you want to see them. Um, with everything, all people, all Canadians are, living their best lives and living free.
Yeah.
And then if they're not, if they don't want to be free, if they want to have restrictions on them, that's totally fine for them. It doesn't have to affect you.
Right.
And that's where it's really challenging because, okay, well, I just changed my mind. Okay, yes, everybody's free. But I'm still seeing out there
Yeah.
that not everybody is free because
Yes.
making the choice to not be free.
Yes.
This creates this divide, right? And there is a division. It's like there's a line in the sand. And that's, if you go back a couple of videos ago when we talked about Revelations, it's like we're going to see that because we're at our end. We're getting these revelations for ourselves because we're about to, move into the next, whatever next step is for our souls, our lives, our beings, our awareness sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
To have all of this chaos and it's our reaction. What are we choosing? How are we choosing? Are we choosing to serve? I like to put it in terms of Caesar or serve the God within,
Yes.
which requires us to have faith in ourselves. So do I have
Yes.
faith in outside things? Do I have faith in inside things?
And that, like, I would use an example of my summer, let's say, because we talked about that. And at the beginning of the summer, I could have been like, oh, this world's a mess. And, I'm all restricted and I can't do anything. And like, I could have paid attention to all the limitations. And then instead, I was like, I'm going to have a great summer. What do I want to do this summer? I want to spend a lot of time going and, spending time in the water. I was thinking, oh, I love the lakes. I love stuff like that. And we were talking about that. And sure enough, I had an amazing summer. I didn't feel like any of my freedom was restricted at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I made my focused on my end. And then, like you said, all those things, opportunities showed up. And every week I was like, oh, I got an invitation to go swim in the water with somebody, or I made a plan to go do something, and there was no restriction. I didn't feel unfree. I felt quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, I would
Yeah.
say more control. For me personally, it's very much important for me to have a relationship with that sense of control about myself, and keep, like you said, internalizing, when it feels like everything out there is against me, or someone's against me, or I'm making up these ideas. It
Stories.
just really, it's so empowering to feel like, oh, all I have to do is change my mind and refocus back onto the things that I want. And sure enough, those things show up.
Yeah. And the other thing, there's people that think it's being very, excuse me, very selfish to be worried about yourself. But again,
Yes.
when this comes to me, my response to them is, well, what control do you have over that person? Or what control do you have over that thing? And, well, there's really nothing. Well, there's really nothing. There is no control. They have no control. So at the very least, when you bring it within, then you can think of things differently.
Yes.
Only control you have is your reaction, your response. So if I don't like that, I don't like that person, I can't change that person, but I can recognize that they're showing me something that I need to know about, whether I like it or I don't like it. If I don't like that person, chances are good I don't like it. Forgive, and they're whatever I would prefer, the savior for that particular thing. So if they're, I don't know, I don't even know what something, they're strong opinions, then, I would prefer that they have more of an open mind. And they do, they have more of an open mind. That's the only thing I can do, because I can't say to them, Open your bloody mind, why don't you? It's going to cause a problem. It's going to cause a fight.
Yeah.
It's not going to open their mind.
Well, also,
In their mind.
right. And also, I would add that an interesting thing starts to occur that and maybe it's at the root of some people's internal struggle, is enjoying my own company. Like the idea that, oh, you're not allowed to go around other people. Like that was like, at first I thought of that as like, oh, that's a horrible thing to do to people. And then the more I have a relationship inside and turn inside, and it's quite the opposite. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm a really happy. I go about okay, let's just say I go do my own thing. Well, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be doing that thing with myself. And then when others come in to affirm that, it's that way. It's like she said, you start to attract that. There's other people out doing things on their own, and even if they're a distance away from you or whatever, it's like, hey, how's it going? Like you're happy within yourself. So
well, and you know what? That's a good point. And that's what this VIRUS has done for us.
Yes.
It's given people the opportunity, whether they took it or not, to get to know themselves.
Yes.
Some have got to know themselves. Others have focused on fighting. No,
yes.
Not right. This is not real. And when you focus on yourself, at least for me, like I just live my life.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed for me today, from last year, from 2 years ago, from 3 years ago, in the sense of I don't feel restricted. I haven't. I've done this. I've gone and done that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So that leads me to one more thing, and then we'll probably call it off or stop, because so we don't get too long. Before you start to get upset about what you're hearing on the news or on Facebook or whatever, just take a minute and think, well, how does that affect me directly? Because I think, what happens, we hear all these things that are going to affect us. They're going to affect us, we're told. Yet in your day-to-day life, how are they affecting you?
Yes.
What has changed in your life as a result of that?
Yes.
I think you'll find in most cases, like nothing.
Yeah.
The change has come because you've been so focused on the outside and what's going on and what's being said, and you're getting upset and people are getting depressed and, mental illness and all this stuff now they're creating. And I just think it's really important, because whatever comes up of how it's affected me like this. Okay, you just found something you need to forgive if that's not what you want.
Yeah.
It's affecting me like that. Oh, one more thing. Like it just gives you those opportunities to see what it is you've accepted as true.
Right.
So you can change them. Because I think it's really important that you recognize, take responsibility, and then what do you prefer?
Yes.
It's the only way to make changes. You have to, what do you prefer? We did the filling in, I think I did a filling in the space video.
Yes.
It's not enough to just notice what you don't want, forgive, and then fill in. Forgive, fill in.
Yeah.
You start focusing on what you do want and not what you don't want.
Exactly.
So I don't know what we're going to name this video. Hopefully, I've just seen so much going on lately with the whole, well, there is just so much going on.
Yes, there is so much
chaos.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that this will help people to sort of be able to kind of step back and sort through what's going on within them that's showing out there.
Yes.
Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like and share, and we'll see you next time. See you, Jane.
Bye for now.